which is ArcGIS Online. It is platform agnostic, meaning it can run on a Mac, it can run on Linux, Windows, mobile devices, Android, iOS. You can create web maps and host layers in the cloud. And it is pretty powerful, especially because you do not need to own your own equipment to operate it. It's very similar to ArcGIS Server, but Esri's maintaining it, and it's actually being hosted on an Amazon Web Service instance. And right now, everybody has access to ArcGIS Desktop, ArcGIS Online through your ArcGIS Desktop licenses. They do come with 100 credits, and the credits are used for data storage and analysis. To learn more about the credits, I would strongly suggest going to the ArcGIS.com page on it, because it is very confusing and something that does kind of, every kind of explanation does help. So ArcGIS Online basically works with a lot of different packages. It's a centralized repository in a way for the different data sets that you can host. You can actually integrate ArcGIS server instances into Online, and you can even set up your own Online called Portal, and it acts very similarly. It does also interact very well with ArcGIS Pro. Pro is meant for it, and it's set up very seamlessly, so you can use layers within ArcGIS Online, edit live. ArcMap is a little bit clunkier with ArcGIS Online. You can publish just like you can in Pro, but it's a little harder to get some of the different functionality that Pro has. Like editing, you actually have to download a local copy that's similar to versioning. You can edit it, and then you have to push the version back up. And then on the top, see the different applications. So Explorer is basically a map viewer, and it's pretty good. It's kind of getting some more. It's been kind of shelved for a little bit, but it's starting to get a little bit more development. But it's primarily just a viewer. And then we're going to be talking about Survey123, Collector, and Workforce. Survey123 and Collector are both very good for field collection, and Workforce kind of ties everything together. So you do have a few options within ArcGIS Online. ArcGIS Collector is really powerful. We'll talk about that one later. And then Survey123 for ArcGIS it's really easy to kind of configure nice custom forms. And then you have web applications such as the GeoForm and then the regular editing tools that you can add into web apps. So I'll kind of talk about those later on. So Survey123 is a real easy tool that is out there for creating nice forms that actually are usable. It is very similar to a SurveyMonkey or a Google Form kind of interface. And people who, it can really work with people, so you can do crowdsourcing well with Survey123, because it can be shared and to anybody and doesn't need to have an application to open it. You just get different accuracy on your location. So to create a survey, you basically open up the 123 web page, and when you look at my surveys, you click on Create a New Survey. And it has two options for creating the survey. One is the Web Designer, which is really easy. You can just graphically click on the question, fill out the question, add the next question. The other option is Survey123 Connect, which is much more intensive because you're basically using an Excel form. You have much more control on it. So I'm going to be going through the web designer aspect. So then you just go through, fill out the information on the name, and make sure you fill out some tags. And then you go through and start creating your survey. So this is what the survey entry bar looks like for the questions. And all you need to do is pick whatever question type you want and fill it out. For the single choice and drop-down questions, you can actually set it to create filters. So you can actually have, if yes, then show these questions, or if no, show these questions. You can also have attachments and images into it, and it does actually create an attachment inside of the geodatabase. So when you download the data, it's right there and it's usable. So this is an example of how the filters look. So this question is a simple yes/no question, and up top you see that it has these questions that are tied to it. And when you look at the rules, it says if yes is answered, you show these questions. So if you also had it as if no, then you could show other questions. And it's really powerful, and it really speeds up the ability for people to kind of go through the different questions. So if they don't need to answer them because the question said no, then they can just move on and it's already done for them. For different questions, you have some pretty easy ways to enter them. You could do the single choice, which is yes, no, or multiple choice, where you can actually check multiple boxes. One thing that's very different than for single choice than in ArcGIS desktops that you're used to with domains is you can allow for other. And the other is basically an open-ended. And you can then go through and just type in what you need, and it will save it to the database. Same thing, and it works with many of the different tools. Another question that can be done that works pretty well is like a rating. So you could do, if you're doing a lunch menu, a lunch map for places around your office, you could actually have people put down, you know, I give this place a 5-star rating, 4-star, and you can have it just fill it out. When you start getting into the 10-star rating that it shows, it does get a little tricky because it doesn't always display nicely on mobile devices. So as you're working, this is what the survey would look like. It can only take, when it looks at GeoPoint, it is only collecting a point. So, and it's only collecting 1 point and 1 image. So in that regard, it is a little limited. But with everything else, it does have a lot of options to kind of work with. Then you just go down and hit publish the survey. And then when you publish it, it will, you can have the option to preview and see how the survey looks on different devices. And then when you hit publish, you can then share it, just like with any other ArcGIS online application. So this is what it looked like. The survey would look like in a browser versus a phone, tablet. So this is your standard kind of advisory share window, and this shows you who can submit data to the survey and then how they can submit it. So you can go through and say everybody can submit it, and they're going to open the survey in the browser, and then it gives you the link and a QR code. Or if you want them to only open it up in the Field app, then you can have them do that. So, and what's cool is you can use this for crowdsourcing data. So you can publish a survey, have it publicly available, put it on your website, and give public feedback to areas that they have issues in their community. And they can actually go through, look at it. And then when you start looking at it, you have lots of options to kind of analyze the data. So it actually has some basic reporting tools. And you first get like a summary view, as well as the geography and the table. So when you work with it, you'll see like how many people are collecting the submitting surveys, and then you can see when it was done, how many times, what time, and then you can kind of go through and look at the different responses. And so one, it does the summary, word cloud, and all that. And then it gives you the other one, which is your data. And this is gives you a map of the locations as well as your standard attribute table. You can open it in the map viewer as in ArcGIS Online, and you can make a map with it. Or you can go into My Content in ArcGIS Online, and you can then look at the different feature services. You can download the data, and you have some options in that, such as file geodatabase or Excel. One thing, when you download it as a CSV or Excel, a lot of times the questions that have answers, like the domains, doesn't always come through. So an easy workaround for that is download the file geodatabase, and then using ArcGIS Desktop, export the table to Excel with the domains included. Yeah, I don't know why it's not always working, but that's an easy fix for that issue. So for the applications outside of Survey123, you do require a feature layer to edit. So this is very similar to when you're working with ArcMap or ArcDesktop. So you have to have a layer that you have to go into edit, so you create a new feature class in your geodatabase. There are three main ways to do it in ArcGIS Online. One way is you can publish a layer from ArcGIS Desktop or ArcGIS Pro. Esri also has some nice feature templates, and I'll show you where those are. And also you can use an existing layer as your template. So creating a feature layer from ArcGIS Pro is very easy, and it's something that you've already done because you've had to create new feature classes for other projects. And all you do is you use your geoprocessing feature class tool and set it up the way you want. Give it the name, give it the geometry type, does it have a z-value, and what coordinate system. And then when you're working with ArcGIS Pro, unlike ArcMap where it had the option to enter the fields, ArcGIS Pro, you have to right-click, go to Design, and then add in your fields or domains. Then you can just go through and add in whatever fields and domains you want. And one thing I'll talk about a little bit with ArcGIS Collector for ArcGIS, is you can have a related table. And it's basically a blank table that you can then use for inspection results. And you can look at historical results on a single feature. So you can set it up to do one-to-many. And it really is great for looking at like an asset that you're saying, well, when was the last time it was inspected? When was the last time it was replaced? Who did it? And other information that you would want. So you can create your related table. And when you publish it, it will all be there for ArcGIS Online to use. So in ArcGIS Pro, you basically would set up your web map, your layers and your web map any way you want. So you go in, do your symbology, and add whatever tables you needed. And then you go to your share ribbon, and you would share as a web layer. And then you go through and fill out the information. And I go through the web layer when I do it, and I set it to the feature type. And then I just start filling out like the tags, the summary. And then I go into the configuration tab, and I make sure to enable editing. And you can actually control the editing. So you want people to only update the attributes, you can set that, or add features only. Then I would also enable exporting the data. So that way I can download it off of ArcGIS Online easily into other formats, as well as enabling sync. And that allows you to go offline. And that just makes it easy to work with, especially with collectors, so you don't have to have a data connection to work. Then you just click on Analyze, and for the most part, as long as it's the warnings, you're good to go. If there was an error, it wouldn't allow you to publish it. And most of the warnings that you'll get is the data source is not data. Oh, there's a data source one up there. But for the most part, it's going to be the layer is drawn at all levels or something similar to that. And especially when you're working with a blank, that's not going to make a big deal. And also, you can set some of these things in ArcGIS Online. So when you go into wanting to use the feature templates, you can go in and click on Create in the My Content window of ArcGIS Online. And Esri has already pre-populated quite a bit of the different templates. They are grouped by type, and they come with all preset symbology, attributes, domains, and also it's constantly growing. So always keep an eye on it. So if you're working with certain projects and you want something quick and easy, just take a look and see if it might be there. The nice thing is you can usually, using a feature template, deploy an application for a collector in under 10 minutes to a field worker. And that includes trying to walk them through downloading the app in the field. So it's very fast. So this is what the feature layer templates all look like. So you can go through and see what they have. So they have a bridge inventory, as-built mapping, they have field nodes, ground control, map comments, and things, set up for natural resources, water, utilities. And it really is quite powerful. When you find one you want, you just click on it. And then you can click on Create. And then it will ask you some questions, such as what layers do you want it to make? Commercial buildings. So I'm looking at the damage control option, and it's damage assessment. And so it's looking at the commercial buildings, residential, and public facilities. And the other thing that it does is when you hit the checkbox for captured GPS receiver information, it actually will give you, if you're using Collector, it will capture the accuracy of the GPS. So it actually will get the PDOP, number of satellites, what's the what type of accuracy meter-wise, that and what unit it was that made the collection. Then you go through and you basically set where you're working, and then you give it a name, and it actually fills out the tags and the summary for you, and you just hit done, and it creates the feature. If you already had a bunch of features in there and you just wanted to deploy it for a new location, you could just go through and click on it, and then it would basically create the same layer blank for you. And then if you knew of a URL for a different ArcGIS service, feature service that you wanted to mirror, say you wanted to reconstruct one that you saw on somebody else's web service and they provided it to you, you could just put in the URL and it would automatically make a blank copy of it. And then it will basically, it just creates the feature service. And then from there, you have to then build a web application to host, to hold that data, which then is used for Collector or the web applications. So web applications are a great way to share your maps and get feedback. And there are a lot of options to customize it. the pre-built templates. So we're going to look at the GeoForm, which is a pre-built template, and then you also have a form like the editing template or just the general map viewer template, which you could throw in edit widgets. And but they're all available and easy to work with. And all you need to do is click on the share button in ArcGIS Online's web map, and it will create the give you the options to create your web maps. Or you can also click on create in that create option. You can create a application similar to the blank feature layer. So here's that damage assessment feature layer that I created before. And all I would need to do to create a web map is click on the Open in Map Viewer. And this is the web map viewer. And like I said, luckily this creates everything as pre-populated symbology and attributes. So this I would just hit save. Then I'd have a web map. And that web map is already deployable in Collector because it's as long as it's on the groups that the user is going to be working with. So this map, because it's saved under my username, would be accessible to my collector. And then you would hit the share button if you wanted to create a web application. So to share, it will say, who do you want to share it to? And this is where you would kind of dictate what groups would get it. And if you had a group that was set up for certain inspection work, you could actually share it with that group, and then they could then see it. And also you can create a web app. And to do that, you click on web app, and then you could do creating a web app. It will ask you for web app builder or templates. And you basically go through, pick out the one you want. And I'll show you two of them. So the first one is the GeoForm, and the other one is just the edit option. So the GeoForm is, like I said, one of the templates for web apps. It's a very easy, stripped down interface, very similar to the Survey123. It is quasi-customizable. You don't have as much functionality because it's going to be a match to whatever the attribute table is. So those multiple choice questions and stuff like that you had in Survey123, you don't get in the GeoForm. Like Survey123, it can be used offline, but the accuracy is really weird sometimes because it's using your web browser for its location information. And it really depends on when it was last synced. I've had times where somebody went out into the field, used it, and because the web browser still thought it was the home base, showed points back at the home location, even though they were out in the field. So it doesn't always collect its location information well. But for crowdsourcing, it does work fairly well because people were using their computer or their phone to report something. It is only for points, and but you can also have it collect multiple attachments. And it's really easy. Once you hit share, you get your GeoForm builder, and you go through the menu. So you hit start, pick the layers you want editable, and then you go through and fill out the form details. You give it some instructions, the header, what fields, if you have to go through and clean up the field names, because, aliases, you can do that in the form builder. The style, there are some nice themes, so you can actually tell it to pick a different theme so it can look a little different. And then it has a basic map viewer that's associated with it, so you can see the other results. And in the options, this is where you can enable offline support. So if it does have a connection and when it's restored, it will submit them. Social media sharing buttons, how you can do base map toggles, location searching, and all that. And it allows you to preview it, publish it, and you get this really simple, straightforward form. The location is collected always at the bottom of the form, and if you had attachments, it would be down there as well. Other web applications, you can use anything really that has the ability to add the edit tool or widget through Web App Builder or the application templates. There is one that's set up only for editing, and it's a really stripped down, nice, clean editor, especially if you're having people just constantly working on it on their computer, and all they need is the real basics. And that's what this tool, this template looks like. This is the edit one. And you basically say, I want the edit toolbar, I want to locate it, scale bar, base map toggle. And when you put it together, all they see is the layers that are editable. They can click on it. They click on whatever feature layer that they want, and then they put down whatever features they want, and it will ask them for the attributes. Real simple. It does have the same issue that the GeoForm has with the accuracy of the location. It is not super high accurate, but if you had somebody who was requesting stuff, and that's why I usually like these, we have somebody say, I need digitized, or I need, for this example, I need this area flown for UAV imagery. You can then have them draw the box, and you can see it and work with it. ArcGIS Collector basically is a replacement for ArcPad, and it's a really great field collection tool. It allows you to use your phone or any other device that can run on, and it can actually run with higher accuracy GPS units, such as the Bad Elf or even the Trimble. Trimble has a Bluetooth GPS that would connect, and it allows for capture of features. It does allow for capturing of points, lines, and polygons, which is really strong. And you can actually create lines and polygons by walking. So if you wanted to map a trail, you could have it just follow you and just walk it. You do get that GPS kind of wiggle, so then you use a desktop to kind of clean it up, but at least will give you some good options. The other thing is it is really set up to run offline. So you can create, besides your feature layers, you can actually load custom base maps as a tile package. And you just do that, you create your map in ArcGIS Pro like you would. And then you go into your toolboxes, and there's a tile package tool, and it will just go through and generate the package, and you just copy it to your device. And when you open up the web map, you can say use this base map, and it will load that tile package as the base map. You can just go. So this is what ArcGIS Collector looks like. Fairly easy. You open it up, you sign in, and then you pick whatever map you want to work with. The maps are all running off of ArcGIS Online, so you're going to see the same ones. The ones that have the cloud allow you to go offline, and so these are set up with that sync option. And you can click on it, download the area you're working in, and then you basically don't need to have a data connection to save any data. When you get back to data, a place with data, you click on it, and then you would sync the data back up. So really seamless. And then when you're in the application, all you do is it's capturing your location, and when you want to add your feature, you hit the plus. When you hit the plus, it will say what feature do you want to collect. And this one was set up with the damage assessment. So basically it has the same symbology as all set. And then you go through and fill out the attribute table. If you were doing an inspection, you would go do, if there's a brand new feature that you're inspecting, you would hit the plus and do it. If it's existing, you could click on it, and it would show you all of the attributes. And then when you scroll down to the bottom, it will allow you to add a new record to the related table or view the previous related tables. So to tie everything together, Esri came out with Workforce, and it basically is a task management system where someone can dispatch workers to do a task, right? And it will actually allow dispatchers to kind of see where workers are. So if they have to add a task based on location, they can. And any task should be set up to run off of ArcGIS Collector or Survey123. And to create it, all you do is go into the workforce from your ArcGIS Online and create a project and fill it out. Then you go through, and once you start setting it up, you go through. It will say how many users. It will ask you the assignment types. So you could say damage assignment, add it, and it will then ask you some basic questions. And you can say who's the worker, who's the dispatcher. And when you get to the advanced, you can then integrate the different apps. Collector, you could just go through and hit edit and say, for this task, you're going to open up this collector map, and it will automatically open it up for you. Same thing with Survey123. It will automatically, you tell it this is the task for Survey123, and it's this particular survey, and it will go through and open it up for you. And then you have the option to see the location of your workers. Then it has a nice assignment task. So this would be somebody who is the dispatcher, and they will basically click on where the assignment needs to be, the type of assignment, description. You can fill out, give it a basic name, give it an ID, tell it when they are due, and the priority. And when you hit create assignment, it will task the person. And you could task as many as you want. You can task it to the worker. When is it due? And then the worker will see it on the device. So the mobile workforce application first shows them what is their to-do list. And it's first off, it's grouped by the priority that is set by the assignment page. The worker clicks on it and starts working with it. It will then ask them, they can click on the task, then it will open up the correct application to do it, to do the task. When the worker is done, they basically just open up the workforce application again, say that they are done, hit finish, and that closes the task and shows them on the to-do list that they're ready to go to the next one. So this is what it looks like when you hit the task that you want. You hit start, and then you select the option. And when you select it, it will then open up the correct application right away. So this is, I told it to collect damage assessment, and it will go through, you do your collection, hit finish, and now your test is one less, and it's marked and you're completed. So it's really great for kind of putting together and just keeping track of what applications everybody needs to know. And the nice thing is field guides really, if you don't have to have them remember which application to work with, and you can just tell them the task and they click on it and it opens for them, it's really going to make their lives easy and they're going to want to use the tools. So, a couple final thoughts. There are a lot of options for field collection, and there are a few things to think about. Who is collecting the data? Do you need to have named users who are in your ArcGIS Online, or can you use people, or are you trying to do crowdsourcing? What needs to be collected? Do you need offline and online capability? And how often do you update the data? So just a quick summary breakdown. So with the different collection type, ArcGIS Collector can do points, lines, and polygons. And same thing with many of the web apps. Survey123 and GeoForm can only do points. You set up. You use Survey123 is the only one that's set up with a web designer. Everything else needs to have some sort of feature layer and a app. ArcGIS Collector, you can do offline base maps and collection. And Survey123 can do offline collection, and same thing with GeoForm. And Survey123 and ArcGIS Collector are both set up to use high precision GPS receivers in addition to your phones. And then ArcGIS Collector and web apps can view and work with related tables. And Survey123, GeoForm, and web apps can all be used for crowdsourcing. And they do have, oops, sorry, messed up on. GeoForm is an easy to use form, all of them do. ArcGIS Collector, though, has the drawback that you do need a named user. So there is no public available ArcGIS Collector version, so you can't use it for crowdsourcing. Or if you have somebody in your organization who doesn't have an account, they do need an account to use ArcGIS Collector. So with that, I'm going to end for questions. Here's my email, and
Excellent. Thank you, Justin, for an excellent presentation and webinar. As Justin mentioned, we will open this up for questions and answers. I'll give you guys about 30 seconds to a minute to type in. I'll go through each question as it comes in, and I will read the question and then allow Justin to answer. Then we'll move on to the next question. So I'll give you guys about, like I said, about 30 seconds to a minute for those questions to come in. And we'll get started, Justin, with the first question here. What do you mean by Survey123 not having related tables?
it doesn't have, it's basically a one feed record, so you can't have it have, like if you wanted to do an inspection, Survey123 has to capture a new feature every time. So you can't go back and add something to an existing record, like you can with a second table with ArcGIS with Collector, where you can click on it, say new inspection result, and then you can go through and fill out that inspection, and it keeps the old one as well as the new one. Survey123 is a single feature, everything's in the attribute table, and it doesn't do a second related table.
Thank you, Justin. Next question. Do you have an example of using a tile package as a custom base map on a mobile device? Does it have to be published in ArcGIS Online in order to be used in Collector?
No, it doesn't have to be published in ArcGIS Online. Actually, I was using tile packages for guide rail inventory collections in a rural area. And I would, the tile packages were about 8 gig a piece. So publishing it to ArcGIS Online would take a lot of credits. So, but it's very easy to do. And you just sideload it. So you just plug in your device to your computer. If you're an Android, you just copy it to the ArcGIS Collector folder. iOS, you just go through the iTunes and there's a ArcGIS Collector file share option in iTunes. You just drag and drop and it's there.
Thank you, Justin. Next question. Can we get a copy of the presentation? I'll answer that. Yes, we will have this webinar available on the New York GIS Association website under the presentations tab, as well as on our YouTube channel. So please keep a lookout for those. You can visit our website and have access to that presentation there. You'll have the whole audio recorded from start to finish, including the Q&A. Next question, Justin, is for you. What about the crowdsourced tools ArcGIS provides? I believe this is in
Most of
relation
those,
to the previous.
yeah, most of the crowdsourcing tools actually are using the same basic interface as the GeoForm. So they're all using the feature layer. So they're just customized web forms and web applications, but it's still the same basic premise that this GeoForm has. And they are, all of them are pretty good. It's just a matter of how you configure it.
Okay, excellent. We had a couple of comments in regards to the first question in terms of what do you mean by Survey123, not related tables. Some mentioned here, Survey123 supports adding and updating existing features. You can have a repeat question type in terms of the repeating table. Also supports related tables through the use of repeats in XLS forms. So just those are just additional comments that were mentioned there. Next question, Justin. I want to map turtles' occurrence through crowdsourcing. What's the best tools?
Probably the best tool would be, it's routing. Sorry, can you repeat the question?
So the question comes in. The user, the attendee is saying, I want to map turtle occurrences through crowdsourcing. What would be the best tool to use?
I would probably use a Survey123 form for people to fill out the information, just because of you're doing a single occurrence. It's not like it's following the turtle, and it just makes it easy. So yeah, because you're going to be asking people to do questions. So if you can try to reduce the load for people, so or you could have questions that are filtered better, then the people are more likely to fill out information.
Excellent. Next question. What's the best way to create tabbed forms? Is it possible?
I'm not familiar with it being possible yet. It looks like Survey123 is moving that direction, but I have not seen it. So, not that I know of yet.
Can you use this without using online, such as desktop?
No, you have to use online for any of these tools. There is no way to access any of these tools through desktop or even server. You have to have online to kind of meld everything together. But you can use a portal instance, but portal is basically your own online.
Not sure on this question here. It says here, can you work by forcing a link to the application dashboards? That's the best way I could read that question.
The data would be coming in, so it would be usable for the application dashboards. Just because the application dashboards fill out information very similar, they're still reading the databases. But looking like the dispatch to the dashboard, I do not know yet. I haven't spent too much time with application dashboards on some of those.
Okay, excellent. Next question. Thank you, Justin. Given all the off-the-shelf options, is there a significant difference in offline GPS accuracy without Bluetooth additions? And the second question, have you seen an accuracy difference between the offerings?
Well, with offline, the phones are getting pretty good with their GPSs. If you have a regular phone, most of the iPhones and a lot of the Androids have GLONASS, so you're getting 20-some satellites to try to boost your resolution, and so you're getting probably about 4-meter accuracy, which is pretty decent from the phone. Now, when you just add in the Bluetooth, you're adding in just more. It can read different parts of the particular GPS signal. So the Trembles have access to the higher accuracy bands, the L1, I believe, band. So it actually just gives you better information. Yeah. What was the second one?
Second part, have you seen any accuracy differences between the offerings?
Well, any of the web offerings, the accuracy is pretty rough, just because they cannot use the GPS as well. It's a single ping to the location service of the phone. Collector and Survey123, if you're using the actual app, it's actually reading the GPS of the device and it's collecting the data live versus a single ping. So a lot of times it will keep updating itself nicely versus the web browser, which is more of a ping.
Excellent. We have several comments that came through in terms of you can sideload, as you mentioned, tile package via an SD card if the mobile device has one. There's some links or a link to additional crowdsource tools for you guys to look through. There was a comment here mentioning that now the Survey123 can be used without a named user account. This was always the case. I assume you'd recommend using Survey123 over Crowdsource Reporter.
Yeah, I would, just because it makes it easy.
Okay. There was also another comment in terms of related to the tabs. Larry Spraker from VHB showed groupings, not tabs in Survey123. Not sure if it was customized. So those are just comments I just wanted to mention as to previous questions. So we got about 3 or 4 more questions, Justin, if that's okay, if we can continue through working through them.
Mm-hmm.
So the next question, can the feature layer set to be added and updated only without a delete?
Yeah, you could set that up through the ArcGIS Online interface. There are options for that.
Okay. You mentioned that you can get GPS accuracy statistics. Would they appear as columns in the attribute table? What do you need to do to set that up?
Well, if you're doing one of the templates, it's automatically hit that checkbox and it works. I haven't figured out how it's populating with other features, because it would be great. That's one thing. It's kind of a request I put into it. If it was possible, I haven't seen it for the desktop, for the feature layers you publish. But it is just extra attributes at the end of the table. Just like it when you set up for edit tracking, it adds the editor, the date, the creator, the date. It's the same basic principle.
All right. Next question. Is it possible to edit a record that was collected via Survey123 by exposing the layer in a REST service feature class in a web application?
Yep, it is possible. And it's also possible to edit it in desktop too. So it's whatever you in Pro. So it's already exposed and it's set up for editing. So it's just a matter of cleaning it up however you want.
As I don't see any more questions in the queue, and we've gone over the 1 o'clock end time. I want to thank again Justin Cole for his great presentation. This presentation will be available recorded on the New York GIS Association website, as well as the YouTube channel. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to the general email. Appreciate everyone's time for attending, and keep a lookout for additional webinars in the future. Justin, anything you'd like to say before we close?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Thank you, and everyone enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the break and the holiday, and have a good week. Thank you.